Buenas tardes, everyone. It's really nice to talk to you guys again, and then good morning from South Korea. So today, I understand the topic is very intriguing, right? So now we are all suffering with this new norm. So today, actually, I put the title as a blended learning slash flipped classroom. But the thing is, through this like 50-minute 45 workshop, I really want to hear from you guys too. So we're going to open the chat room for 45 minutes. So while I'm giving some information, and then I'm going to ask lots of questions today. Are you guys ready? Good. I know that teachers in Central South America, you guys are all ready, right? So let's get going. So we're gonna start with this news clip, and then after we see this news, and then we're gonna discuss it further. The reason why I want you to show this like news clip before we actually have this like planning session, like before we have this workshop, we always have a planning session with the consultant in Empressor. And then they're really curious about how we are handling in Korea with this pandemic era, because we already open our class. And then some of the schools, they already have this like offline classroom going on. So we're gonna show you how we are doing it in Korea first, and then we are going to discuss about what's gonna happen in your land. Let's listen. 너무, is it too low? Okay, I'm going to, I was told that sound is too low, so let's see. Okay.
From fever checks to extra distance between classmates, one school in Daegu demonstrated ways to return to normalcy in the COVID-19 era. Choi Jung-yun takes us there.
Daegu was once the hardest city in the country, with over 200 school staff and students infected with COVID-19. The city has come up with strict disease prevention measures to successfully manage the reopening of schools.
Keeping distance is the most important thing. There won't be a single day that the entire school will be in the same place at the same time. Arrival times and break times will differ.
Students will have their temperatures taken regularly, once at the front gate, with a thermal sensor in the hall, and by their teachers in the class. Students don't sit next to each other in the classroom. Instead, desks are arranged in examination row, keeping at least a meter between each desk to avoid close contact.
During class, students and teachers must all wear masks. I will refrain from teaching at close distance.
Teachers will have to disinfect doorknobs regularly to prevent any possibly infected student from spreading the virus. The class will be kept at a low temperature, with educators constantly ventilating the area. Hand sanitizers, masks, gloves, and a thermometer will be kept in the corner of the classroom. Students must also keep their distance during lunchtime. In order to minimize contact and prevent infections, schools have installed transparent partitions on the dining hall tables. They will sit on one side facing the same direction, or in a zigzag, leaving the front and side empty. To avoid infection through droplets, sharing water is prohibited, and each student must bring their own separate spoon and chopsticks.
Students with a temperature over 37.5 degrees Celsius, a sore throat, or a cough must go home. Additional symptoms like nausea, diarrhea, and loss of taste or smell have been included.
Students who have symptoms have to wait for guardians at the temporary observation room. Those who've been previously confirmed to have the virus will have to get tested again before coming to school. 최정윤, 아리랑 뉴스, 대구.
From fever.
Okay. So, how do you like it, the video? Actually, well, the reason why I think it's better for you to see this, what's happening in Korea, it's near future for you guys, right? So do you think that are you going are you guys going to open the class pretty soon though? I know that many of you are from different countries. No. Oh, many no's in the chat room, right? Okay, so do you think you guys are gonna open the class at least at the end of September? Oh, not in 3 months is. Hmm. Wow, lots of no's. Okay. Hmm. Okay, thank you a lot for participating. I know that this channel is gonna blast pretty soon, right? So yes, we understand what you are facing right now. So this is kind of the your grade preparation kind of session, I think. So we're going to go over a little bit of our like Ministry of Education's guidance to open the school. Okay, so Gala, thank you for the specific information. So we're gonna go from this to, let's see. So it's really important to work closely with each student's household because even though we are doing our job in a great way at school, if students' household is not gonna cooperating, then means we're gonna have a bummer in the classroom, right? So student side, they need to get ready to come to school with those personal hygiene practice and then right education. Wow, next year. Okay. So they need to know how to wash their hands properly, right, with the soap. And also they need to cover their mouths when they're coughing or sneezing. And then they need to know how to wear a mask properly, right? Those are the really basic steps for your students to know. And also they need to understand this is very important when they come to school, because otherwise if they think it's very fun, it's nothing that serious, that means they're going to change the whole environment. So on top of this, each student's household support, you need to think about what you can do from the school side, right? So as you've seen the video, you need to have those temperature check before they get into classroom or school buildings. And then yes, sanitizers everywhere. That's very important. And also eating could be very, how can I say that, limited in the school setting. No water sharing and then no food sharing. So I'm not sure how your school lunch is going. In Korea, usually we have a cafeteria, and then they go and then the cafeteria workers, they like distribute the food for the students, and then that's gonna be very limited for the schools. And also teachers, usually in the classroom we share lots of props with each others, and then as you've seen the video, doorknobs, desk, chairs, everything, you need to be aware that you need to clean those areas very like often, right, for your students. So group hygiene practice, and then as a teacher, you need to think about those protocols, right? So, and also nowadays, even though we open the classroom and then we still have those small outbreaks in the regional areas. So whenever we have some suspicious cases or direct contact, then we need to follow our government like step-by-step guidance. So first they need to check if they have any like, oops, if they have COVID-19, and then if even though they do not have COVID-19, they need to be separated for 2 weeks, just in case if there are patients without having any symptoms. So those kind of things you need to think about as a school. And also you need to discuss closely with the Ministry of Education if they are going to give you any kind of guidance, right? So I just give you the brief information that what we are doing over here. What's your most worries if you open your classroom for the students? Someone said might be next year or not in 3 months.
Oh no! Just
Any worries over here? I can see the chat rooms. Mhm. You're worried if there is any case of outbreaks in the classroom or near the classroom. So too many students in one classroom. I totally hear you. And students are more than 30, right? Student won't take it seriously. Okay. And what about the school side? Do you think, yes, so students are not following the hygiene rules? Yes, that might be the problems. And do you have any guidelines from Ministry of Education to follow? Or do you have any like step meetings and like weekly step meetings or okay? So I was told that schools in Mexico and then Central South America, now you are having those Zoom meetings with each other and then you guys doing those follow-ups. Okay, good, good. You have a guidance and also, but you don't have a detailed plan. Yes, I totally understand that even though the news clip that you saw, you watch it, if you so the reply underneath those news clips, students answered back that we don't have that one, our school does not have that the procedures, and then they complain that. And then I think that's totally depends on schools preparations and then schools like detailed plan as someone like Viridiana mentioned. Okay, right, right. But since we are gathering over here, the reason why we are gathering here, that's very simple. Even though we have this situation, our job must go on, right? So as a teacher, we need to think about this adapting a new role is our key to help our students to grow, right, in academic area. Right. I think Violetta just mentioned the really nice things that even though they lack of awareness of those personal hygienes and then also this taking this into seriously, we can be a really nice model. I think Violetta mentioned the really nice things. Good. And now we are thrown to this Zoom world, right? So you are doing this online classes with your students, and also you need to think about how we can expand that just in case that we open our classroom. So I think that's gonna be the key of this like workshop with the blended learning and then flip the classroom. So we're gonna get ongoing here. So I do understand that each classroom has different like settings and then different situation, different reality, to be honest. So even though we are discussing this throughout 45 minutes, I totally understand that we can find the absolute solution to my classroom in this pandemic era, right? So you can get some ideas throughout this like 45 workshop, and then we can discuss further about someone who has really nice experience with this like flipped classroom or like blended learning experience. So we're gonna get going over here. So now we're just doing a Zoom. But once you open a classroom, we need to divide our class into 2 or 3. So you have to think about the way to accommodate the group of students, not at once. That's really strongly guided by WHO and also I'm pretty sure by your government. So what you can do actually, you're going to divide your students. So some of your students are going to do the e-learning in the classroom by your guidance. And then some of your students are going to present in the classroom. So they're going to do offline classroom with you. So this is basic concept of blended learning. So this one was considered as a very fancy concept, to be honest. But nowadays, we have to think this in our kind of mandated way of teaching because our like setting is going to be like that, definitely. So let's look at the definition of blended learning. Blended learning is an approach to learning that combines face-to-face and online learning experience. Pretty simple, right? Okay. Right, MC teacher, you're rocking the comments, right? So to be able to help our students to grow academically, we need to think about the new realm and then we need to adapt to this new world. So one of the way that most of the teachers around the world now considering is the blended learning, because as I mentioned before, they cannot host the whole class in at once. So some of them, they're doing their online work and then some of them, they're in the classroom with me. So and one of the way to do it is flip the classroom. So I'm sure that you guys are pretty familiar with this plus flip the classroom. So first, before they go into actual classroom, they need to participate some of the activities. It could be reading a text and then also the solving the problems in your LMS or watching the DVD videos or writing some sentences based on the theme or whatever. Those are the activities that you are going to give your students before they come to the class. And then during the classroom, you check if they understand those activities and then any questions or any worries or any like checking each other's concept kind of session over here. And then after that, they're gonna wrap up those by doing some kind of group work or some kind of project work extra. So this is kind of the process of the flipped learning. So when you think of blended learning, you can combine this two in a very like appropriate in this pandemic era, right? So you can give out students some exercises online or videos that you have. And then once you have a group of students, you can have some active checking out session with your students. And then after that, they can extend their learning to doing some project work or some game or some kind of the group work to check each other. So is it clear? So we're going to go into flipped learning. So check the definition over here. So if you look at that, types of blended learning that reverses the traditional educational arrangement by, let's see, okay, I forgot to have this nice highlighter. So reverses the traditional educational arrangement by delivering instructional content and often online outside of the classroom. Quite interesting, right? So now we're going to go into this 4 pillars of flip. Why flip is quite kind of appealing in this our new situation around the world. So first, flexible learning environment. Well, if you think about those previous session, student can access to those homework or like any kind of previous session 24/7, right? So it's not kind of the limited time for them to assess the learning environment over here. So they can choose their convenient time, and also they can pace their own speed while they're doing it. So they're not going to have too much pressure, and also they're going to have their own like learning environment controlled. And also it could be applied into your own classroom setting. So if you have those half of students in your classroom, then you can definitely change your learning environment as you wish. So you don't need to have, if you have 40 students, but this time you only have 20 students. So 20 of them in their household, they're doing their online work. That means you can have a little more flexibility to arrange your learning environment for offline classroom too. So that's one of the key. Sorry about my voice, I think. Yes. And learning culture is pretty interesting if you're doing the flipped classroom. So once they finish their preview before they come to the classroom, now they're facing with you, and then they're gonna share what they've done, and then what are their difficulties, and then what's their worries with you. So they're not just sitting there listening to you, and then they're not just solving the problems. They need to discuss that the process and then result, and then their missed point with you. So they're gonna kind of the naturally own the learning process. So if you think about flipped classes, it's not like teacher centered. They face the teachers, you explain everything, they sit there, they're gonna copy. So those kind of thing, it's quite, how can I say that, even though we have to adapt this kind of methodology for our new norm, but at the same time, oh, actually you could feel that it's actually helping my students to be developed as an independent learner. And then intentional content is very key. Even though you give out your students the preview, the work to do before they come to class, if you just let them to solve the problems, or if you just let them to read the text, or if you just let them to watch the video and then not giving out any work to do, then they're gonna just watch without thinking that much. So actually, even though that's very simple video clip for them to watch, you can definitely give them some task. Oh, what was the one thing that was very interesting to you? Can you share that with me? And then one thing that you really don't understand, or one word that it's really hard for you to grasp the meaning out of it. Those kind of things. You can definitely lead your students to think while they're doing it. And then in the classroom, you can definitely point out those work that they've done and then discuss with the students. That's very important. And lastly, I know that we are all professional educator. So with this setting, you are gonna be the facilitator, right? So I understand that you wanna deliver much concept to your students. But the thing is, this setting, we cannot have our each student's shoulders and then kind of drag them to on the one spot at once. That's not possible. So you have to respect your students' own pace, and then we understand that you cannot speed up their learning process as you wish, but be patient and also try to facilitate their learning process, and then also witness how they are handling their own learning process. That's very important over here. So any questions of these 4 pillars of flips? Not now? Hmm. Okay, good. No, good. Now we are going on. Then let's think about what we have. We understand that blended learning, flipped classroom, very, how can I say that, fancy and then looks nice. But as an English teacher, what we can do. But the funny thing about English teacher, we have a little more resources than any other like subject teachers, right? Do you agree with that? Yes or no? Some of them might say no. My mathematics teachers, they have fancy like iPad and then everything. Probably you don't. But the thing is, if you think about this, yes, I totally understand how you feel. We already have our LMS and then also CD-ROMs. And then if you think of your English textbook, they're quite fancy, right? We have lots of illustrations and also backside, there are lots of like extra resources that you could find. So you can definitely utilize what you have over here. The thing is, oh, okay, right? Interactive whiteboard material is amazing in this setting, right? I totally agree with you, Maria Monica. So if you look at this like resources that we have, you might feel overwhelmed. Then, oh, flip the class, that means do I need to prepare something extra for them to look at? And then what do I need to do more? But think about the things that you already have, and then think about how to plan, like what do I want to put as their before class like activities, before class work at home. And then in the classroom, what should I do? You can just think about those elements as a teacher. So first, before you think about your lesson plans and then how to flip the classroom, before class, decide what to flip. You might have the video clips. I'm not sure what level you're teaching, but if you're using our subject links or like Surface, then you're quite familiar with our like real life video clips for students to watch. So you could definitely use those video clips, or since we have LMS, you can think about the LMS elements, and then not even only for build and grow. You already have, if you have other like the publishers, then I'm pretty sure they offer LMS for you guys. So think about LMS elements, and then inside the LMS, you might have those pop quizzes or listening segment, writing segment, like reading segments. So you can definitely divide those for their before classroom work to do. And then also definitely you can use your reading books or the course book so they can read, and then they can think about the each paragraph or the word sentences as you want to accumulate. So you want to kind of accommodate with this before work, before come to class work. So those one thing. And then as I mentioned before, you need to think about the task while they're watching video or while they're doing LMS, pop quiz, or reading a text. So those are the things that you need to be careful with it. And then during class, you need to think about the way to check your students' like task. So you need to ask lots of Q&A, or you can do the brief Q&A, and then they need to share their understanding. So you can definitely put them as a pair or groups so they can check their like those understanding, and then those each other's understanding checking session, you can definitely expand that as a presentation or like project or anything that you want to wrap up those. So you cannot finish those in one classroom. I know that sometimes it takes longer. So think about those elements while you are flipping your classroom. Is that clear? Any questions so far? No. I love just Central South American audience. I never have this like the chatting blast before. Okay, good. Thank you a lot for participating. Good. Now, and if you're doing the blended learning with this flipped classroom, then you need to think about those online class versus offline classes. For example, they watch the video and then they solve the problems in LMS and they read the reading text online. And then once you have them in the classroom, you can definitely add some fun elements, right? So once you check their understanding and then once they check each other's understanding, then you can extend that as a, let's do some game, or let's do some project, or let's do some like role playing, pair work, those kind of things. So online classes versus offline classes, you need to think about those online classes, kind of the input session for your students, and then offline classes for more like output lead by teachers kind of session. So those kind of things that you need to keep that in mind. So you don't want them to have in the classroom and then they're gonna sit there and then solve the problems and then another like passive classroom. So you don't want that happening. So I think you can understand everything. And then now we're gonna check one of the examples of flipped classroom. So for example, let's see, I'm gonna share one of those. Okay, so sorry, God, no. Okay. Can you guys see this? Okay, this is one of our LMS. And then this is common phonics. So if you look at this, this is students. Okay, my highlighter is gone, so I need this again. So this is one of our LMS like pages. And then this is study status. So if you look at, this is a student's account. So teacher's account is a little different, but it's, if you're familiar with Build and Grow LMS, I think you won't have that trouble. It's pretty user-friendly and then straightforward kind of LMS. So if you look at this, students are gonna do this assignment to do before they classroom, before they come to class. So if you look at this here, they can watch. Okay, sorry that I have to do this one again. Okay. I will show you from the beginning.
Dad.
Okay. This is okay. Okay, this is one of the examples, and I will show you. the quiz session. So if you look at that, they can look at this picture and then they can solve the problems with this. And it's pretty simple, but the thing is, before they actually come to classroom, they can see, oh, this is gonna be, can you guys see this?
Let's check whether an example
So
of comparison.
if you look at this LMS, this is right, phonemic awareness and then the basic phonics for minis, right? But if you look at this, even though this very minimal like exercise for them to do from home, but they'll be ready to come to your classroom and then have much more kind of active exercise based on those. And if you look at this, they can just watch the video and then also the test before they come to class. And then one of the really nice point for the teachers to use this kind of LMS is you kind of track down all of your students, right? That's one of the beauty. That I understand that why all the teachers, they love LMS so much because of that reason, right? Especially if you're teaching the young learners, the minis. I always call them minis, pre-human beings. They're not quite self-sufficient. So if you give out the worksheets or extra work for your students, then I'm pretty sure that they're not going to show up to the classroom with the piece of work that they have to do, right? After like week and a half later, right? So that's very common. So for younger ones, I think it's very beneficial for you to organize those work within the LMS or online resources so they can follow those like tracks. So teachers also, you can see how they're doing on those tracks too. But before they watch this little video clip, how to write and then what word comes with this letter, then you have to make sure that they're aware what to focus on. So before they come to classroom, you make sure that now someone wants to ask the question. Do you want to say something or do you want to write something on the chat room? It's okay? Good? No worries. Okay. So once they have this video, before they have video clips, one thing that I can recommend, you need to make sure that they know how to write the letters. And then what are the matching words with it. So in the classroom, before you get into actual activities, you can check individually and then you would know that, oh, you did your work done, not just playing the video and then doing something with your dog. Or if you look at the test itself, then you can definitely do in the middle of, the classroom, or at the end, or in the beginning. Depends on your needs. So sometimes, once you're teaching phonics, the one thing that I observed, some of your students already have some alphabet-like knowledges because they went to really nice kindergarten or pre-K, they came to your classroom, so they kind of they kind of have those kind of basic ideas. In that case, you can definitely use these quizzes. So you can assess your students. Oh, these students, you don't need to worry about this part. They already got it. So majority of my students are struggling with this sound. Then I'm going to focus more on those sound and then I'm going to do more extra work for that. Those kind of elements you can kind of, how can I say that, manipulate for the offline classes. I think that's a really nice way to use this LMS for the flipped classroom. So once they have this kind of the preview session with LMS, then this is kind of the actual like pages. I know that that's not matching to my LMS pages. I'm so sorry about that, but this is kind of the flow of it. So if you look at this one, once they watch those video, they would understand this in a better way. So as a teacher, you have limited time with your closed group of students. That means you can speed a little up while you're covering these pages with your students. And you can focus more on this sing-a-song activities and chant activities on those bottom part over there. So that's kind of the key way for you to kind of organize flipped classroom if you're using LMS. And also, as I mentioned, if you have an upper class, then definitely you can use those lots of extra materials for students to get to ready to tackle the long reading text or writing an essays and then an extra. That's kind of the key. Okay, now we have a little more minutes to discuss. So is there anyone who's experienced those flipped classroom or blended learning itself? Yes. Adira, do you want to say that? So you can unmute your mic. Sorry, I keep saying the mask a lot, so I keep saying the mask. Okay. Share videos. Elsa did it, and then, okay. Okay, now you know how to do it. Good. So anyone who want to share your like very nice experience or, oh, I tried this before, but this was a bummer because of this and reasons. So that would be very beneficial for all of us because now we have to live with this kind of methodologies. So I think it would be really nice to share each other. Oh,
May I share?
sure.
Well, okay, this experience is actually working with second graders, and it's not particularly my own, it's my sister's. I was really shocked by how she was working with her second graders. I know that with young adults or with teenagers, you somehow can have a little bit more of a dialogue, but with really young kids, I was amazed that something that really helped was connecting with the emotions of the students. And what my sister did was making sure that her students felt that she was still with them. So she sent them a photo, like a cartoon photo, a cartoon version of her. So whenever they were doing activities together, like from their course books and things like that, when they had to send the photos or the visuals of the evidence that they have worked, they had the cartoon version of my sister in there. So they were like, my teacher is still here with me, is still showing her approval.
I think that's a really cute idea and amazing.
So
really.
yeah, and I think it was really hard for everybody.
Yes.
For both teachers, students, if you are working with younger kids, then parents as well. So it's been a challenge.
Okay. I totally understand that thing. Well, and then thank you a lot, Lucero, for sharing that. And then also it's a lot of sharing going on the chat room. And then thank you a lot for sharing your experience. And wow, amazing. You're making your own video for your students. I think that's a really nice way to do it because now we have this phone with us, so you can easily videotape yourself like for 10 seconds or 20 seconds. So giving a clear instruction for your students so they kind of feel that you are there like Lucero's sister did. I think that would be really nice exercise to each other. I think that's really amazing. And let's see. Okay, you guys doing the uploading the YouTube videos. I think that's really amazing too. But at the beginning, I totally understand, Lydia. It was quite nightmare. And then also I do understand that some of the regions in Central South America, you guys are not having stabilized this internet connection. So I think governments are sending out lots of like TV program for your students to watch too. I think that's one of the really nice alternative way to incorporate those low, like underprivileged students over there. So even though they're watching, if just in case that you have any students like them, then they can definitely watch the TV guided by government. It's totally fine, but try to give them some exercise alongside with it. That would help them a lot to focus more. Okay, good, good. I'm totally understand that because we really appreciate that you guys show up. 100 like participant spot is even filled before we begin this webinar. So I think it's really nice and then amazing. And then I wanted to hear from you guys because I know that we are all struggling. So it would be nice to share some ideas and then also that understand that we are doing okay and then we don't need to be panicked that much and then carry on our teaching with our students. Thank you a lot. And also, if you want us to cover any specific topics, then please talk to the consultant in your region, then we are going to take into consideration. We understand that it's going to be while and then we don't want to cover the same thing over and over again. So this is kind of the new trial for us. I hope that it would help you to think about the way to teach once you open your classroom. Thank you a lot, guys. And then talk to you soon. Bye, guys.